Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to some more Let's Play Eador Genesis, New Horizons modded. In the last episode, we successfully defended our shard from an invasion by Lanashar? Lanshar? Lanadshar. I'm gonna keep calling him Lanadshar. He'd attacked us because we refused to kill all the life on our shard, and he decided he would do it for us. He's a very interesting master because he really thinks he's doing the right thing, but if he's killing everyone to reduce the temptation of chaos to invade, man, I don't know. Is it any better than what happens if chaos was to win? I honestly don't know. But in any case, we defeated him using our ports. Is that right? Well, it wasn't ports we built. We built something different. But we jumped across sea provinces, gaining very difficult to attack provinces via negotiations, and were able to land in front of his castle very early. And while he had no significant guard contracts, and his heroes, while high level, were not as well geared as mine were. Messed up that final battle. I shouldn't have lost the elves I lost. That was so dumb. Such an amateur move, not checking what his hero was capable of. I really need to get better at that. I can even tell you what was going on in my head when I saw his heroes were at level 30. It was, oh, they're my level. This will be a piece of cake. I don't even need to look at him. What a giant mistake that could have been. We could have lost both my heroes and had to revert. Thankfully, we won. And upon seeing what his hero was trying to do, like ignore my own warrior, I knew that we won that battle. But I lost too many units in retrospect. That was just awful. In any case, after beating him, we arrived back here at the Astral, where we met another Astral Master, Darinal. And he seems to be I don't know if he's a demigod, but he's an elf, and he leads the elves, I get the impression, similarly to how Vianata leads the fairies. And I get the impression, like Vianata, he's been around for a while. Actually, I think most of these Astral Masters have been around for a while. So he mentioned how the elven creation god was destroyed by chaos in an unfair battle of some sort. I wonder if he actually witnessed it. That would be interesting if he did. And he's friendly with us, which is also good. We have another potential good aligned Astral Master. And this means that someone who probably will not invade us, and hopefully someone that we can get along with on shards without immediately attacking us if he sees we're weak. He still might, but maybe he won't. Right, Vianata does that occasionally. In any case, that's it so far for the plot line of us. And in this episode, we're going to talk to all the Astral Masters, read your comments from the last two videos, and then look at the shards and see which ones we want to attack. Although we'll probably do the shard examining before the comment reading. And the good news about the music stopping up in the Astral is it doesn't matter. The game crashes. We can't get a revert out here. Alright, so before we talk to all the other Astral Masters, why don't we first summon Zar and talk with him about something, because this is what I've been doing, I think, every time I'm back here in the Astral. It's been a while since I've seen Zar, so it'll be good to talk to him again. How can I help you, boss? Oh, okay. So, we can ask him about two Astral Masters that we haven't talked to him about yet. Stanria or Darinal. We can ask him what he really wishes to have. Or we could mention that one event where we saw ourselves. And we were fleeing from the forces of chaos, right? And we defeated that army. So why don't we ask about this? Once on a certain shard, a spirit disguised as a mortal, asked me for help. Do you happen to know him? Really? This is very interesting, boss. Didn't this pseudo-mortal remind you of anyone? Let me guess. He looked just like you when you wear a mortal skin. Oh, these are interesting answers we can choose. All mortals look the same. Is that... I don't think that's the case at all, but maybe that's not the case to Lotaeri. Really? Well, perhaps. Okay, we'll go with the answer that I think, which is I thought he was me. Although, well, when we were on the shard, I mentioned that he probably wasn't us, right? I was joking that was the case. So, let's go with the second answer. Really? Well, perhaps. Right. And do you know why he looks so much like you? Because it was you. Me? How could that be? Well, we already know that we have time powers. In fact, I suspect that the way the campaign plays out is that the Astral Master, Lotaeri in our case, but whoever you are, right? You always have time powers. That's your gig. You can't really... The game doesn't let you create an Astral Master and choose that, like, you want to start with a fairy tree, like Vianata decided for herself, for example, right? Or stuff like that. Or maybe, like with Lanashar, he gets stronger undead spells, or stuff of that sort. In any case, we chose time powers. And so I get the impression that we are capable of going back to the very beginning of when the shards were shattered or something of the sort, which is where we started the campaign from. And that if things don't go right for us, and we end up very close to losing against Chaos, we just go back in time to the beginning and make another attempt at it. More than any of the Astral Masters, I get the impression that we are probably the one who is supposed to defeat Chaos, because we're the only one who can revert our mistakes, quite literally, as we've seen reversions on the shards themselves too. But Lotaeri is still bumbling about a little bit with his memory. Me? How could that be? I'm certain that it was you. Back in the old days, you had your share of running and hiding from demons. You retold some of your adventures to me. And then, when the demons finally had you cornered, you showed unimaginable ingenuity in saving your skin. You fled into the future and pretended to be a mere mortal. By the way, did you save yourself from the past or not, boss? Yes, I did. Let me guess what happened next. You said you managed to gain some lousy master's trust and made him send his whole army to protect you. While his troops and demons were tearing each other apart, you quietly slipped away from his castle. Which was a smart decision, since even if the master's army had won, you would have had to pay the hospitable host for his protection, which wasn't part of your plans. Did I guess right? We didn't actually... When we answered his questions, us, didn't ask him to pay us for our services. We just said, we'll protect you, right? Because we're fighting Chaos. I'm using Lotaeri as someone who's very good aligned, like I tend to do in the games I play, and who wants to do the right thing. In this case, it's stopping the shards from being destroyed, all of reality as we know it from being sucked into Chaos, and Chaos winning. But, well, then again, hold on, I'm saying some things incorrectly. We can't stop Chaos. We can't destroy Chaos. We can... The impression I get from the previous conversations I've had is that we can only withstand it. It would be like a... something on a beach, and the tide comes in and out at random times. You can't defeat the tide. You can't defeat the ocean. You can only, as that object, stand against the tides that comes in and hope it recedes, and then you're able to wait for it to attack again. That's what we're doing, is the impression I get. So you said you managed to gain some lousy master's trust and made him send his whole army to protect you, while his troops and demons were tearing apart. You quietly slipped away from his castle, which was a smart decision. Okay, I think he's correct. Yeah, you nailed it. Anything else, boss? One more question for you, Czar. How can I help you, boss? We got cheated at talking with him last time we were here at the Astral, so we'll ask 2 questions to all the Astral Masters, if I'm allowed to. What do you think of Stanria? Oh, the cunning, greedy witch who pretends to be a kind granny. She enjoys spreading all kinds of rumors about other masters. I wouldn't trust her if I were you, boss. I see. Anything else, boss? No, you're free for now. So it was us. I wonder what would have happened if we didn't manage to defend him. Again, I can't believe the guard's guard. I used it well enough to kill all those demons. That was simply ridiculous. That's a testament to either how good I am at the game, which I know I'm not based on the last video, or how powerful the guard's guard is. Maybe a little bit of both. I'm smart enough to know what to do, and the guard's guard made up for some of the mistakes I made. I did have a misclick. I remember in that battle also. That was awful. But in any case, alright, let's talk with some of the other Astral Masters. So we will start. I guess we'll go in the order at which we found them. By the way, it seems to me that we are moving up in the ranks here. And I'm guessing that the Astral Masters that are higher up are closer to the center of Eador and further away from the edge of chaos, which I think is represented by the red nebula we see down here. I wonder if so I've never really watched Masters of... I watched a little bit of Martin Fenka's Overlord playthrough for the Masters of the Broken World, but I didn't get very far in it. He's pretty good, by the way, if you want to see someone play on the hardest difficulty level for the base Eador Masters of the Broken World game. But I didn't watch far enough to see if, like, does your shard move around? Do you get to see chaos slowly getting stronger and encroaching upon all the shards as the game's timer advances? I wonder if this background we see will change as we go forward. I don't think it has yet, but I don't remember the earlier on shards. I'm sorry, turns into astral. Anyway, so let's talk with them in order. We'll start with Oinor. Glad to meet you, Lotaeri. What can I do for you? I have a question for you, Oinor. I'd be happy to answer your questions. What would you like to know? What do you know about Lanashar? It's hard to find a darker beast in the astral than Lanashar. He's a mindless instrument of death that destroys all living things. Once he was immortal, but now there's nothing human left within him. Only a compulsive urge to kill. I see. Perhaps you have some other questions. Yes, I do have another question for you, Oinor. I'd be happy to answer your questions. What do you know about Stanria? She used to be a high witch, head of the so-called Bloody Swamp Sabbath, a powerful organization of witches and sorceresses. Using her power and influence, as well as her abilities as a seer, Stanria managed to perform an excarnation ritual to become one of the immortal masters. Did you know her in the mortal world? No. But I studied the books written by the Sabbath members in my search for the details of the excarnation ritual. Unfortunately, apart from historical chronicle, those books contain little useful information. Stanria trusted her secrets neither to her friends nor to parchment. Interesting. You know, the way they talk about the same events also makes it seem like originally I thought like these were all different dimensions and different timelines, and maybe there is indeed different timelines present. But it sounds like all these masters have come from the same place, just at different times on that place, and were somehow able to create themselves as immortals and came into being here at different times at which the before or after the shards had been detonated is when they appeared out here. I'm pretty sure that these shards were all put together. I remember Czar mentioning that it's just our desire to claim shards, which has us see these as needing to belong to each other as a form of like a bigger shard, and that we're trying to justify our greed. But I disagree with him entirely. I think these shards were indeed a part of something, and based on those old stories we learned from that the races have, like the orcs, the dwarves, and the elves, what have you, that they were part of something bigger, and then they were all shattered. In fact, it sounds like all the races even are aware of the fact they're on shards. I suppose you could even go off to the edge and look over the edge of a shard and see the astral there, would be my guess, right? Because you can't wrap around. These aren't spheres or planets. They're a little different. It's a little bit like Rimworld? Riftworld? I think it's called Riftworld. God, it's been a long time. The one disc on the back of a turtle, if I recall correctly, something of that sort. So I get the impression these shards are a bit like that. Actually, well, no, they're not. They're, according to Zard, they're thought forms. So there's no actual physicalness to them out here in the astral. We just see what they represent. Does that mean that our battles aren't really battles as we're seeing them, but this like subjugation of our will there to see if we can convince most of the people on that shard to think like us, and then they join us? I wonder if we're actually fighting on these shards at all. I see. No more questions for you, owner. Thank you for your time. Hello, Belith. Ah, it's you, Lotaeri. What a lucky meeting. What can I do for you? I have a question for you, Belith. What would you like to know? What do you know about Stanria? The cunning witch is playing her own game. I have no idea why she wants to be in the astral. I'd rather she lived on one of the shards, telling fortunes. She's pretty good at it. I wouldn't trust her. The serpent is ready to strike at any moment. Thanks for the warning. Have you learned everything you wanted to? That's a very interesting way of phrasing it. I find that many people, when they think what others are thinking about, could be considered like projection. They often apply flaws and faults to them that they themselves have. The way Belith speaks to us is very telling about the way he thinks. When he wants to talk with us, it'll just be because he wants some information from us. And I guess we do want that from him. But it's not just that for Belith. I would like to know more about his thoughts on things, rather than just getting information about one of our rivals, as it were. But I can't ask him any more questions other than what's available for our rivals. One more question for you, Belith, if you have time. What would you like to know? What do you know about Dario? Arrogant and stubborn, like all elves. He is very unpleasant to deal with, especially because he has a habit of putting himself above everyone else. Oh, that sounds very familiar, Belith. Elven archers and druids often help him out in wars on the shards, which makes him an especially unpleasant opponent. All in all, getting rid of Dario would be very convenient. I don't think any master would dispute that, except himself, of course. It's just that not all masters are brave and straightforward enough to admit it. I see. Have you learned everything else you wanted to? Yes, I have learned enough. He's so conceited, too. I love Belith. If he ever invades me, man, I'm not sure I have the heart to invade his shard back. He's such a sniveling, slimy rat. I love him. He's a fantastic enemy to have made. Vianata. It's nice of you to come by, Lotaeri. What can I do for you? I have a question for you, Vianata. So what would you like to ask me? What can you tell me about Stanria? A lying, vulgar creature. That Stanria thinks only about herself and her profits. She couldn't care less about the fates of mortals in the whole of Eador. I don't believe that she really possesses the ability to see the future. Most likely, that's just another of the witch's dirty tricks to help her rise to power through deceit. I see. Is there any other way I can help you, Lotaeri? Yeah, one more question. What would you like to ask me? I would like to ask her about Lanashar, but I don't want to attack Lanashar this upcoming round, so I will hold off asking about that until a future. I think probably the next actual turn is when we'll attack Lanashar, or the turn after that. What do you know about Daranal? If she has been around, if she is the Queen of Fairies and always has been, and is now out here in the astral after the world was detonated, then maybe she will know about what happened to the elf god too. Daryl is among the few whom I trust completely. Elves have always been friends with my people, and I believe it will always be that way. However, back in the old days, when Daryl was merry and hopeful, I liked him better. The king of elves is still grieving for Larinoil, patron of forests. The fairies mourn the death of the great god no less than the elves, but unlike them, we do not feel it right to despair. Life is wonderful, too wonderful to be wasted in endless sorrow. I see. Is there any other way I can help you, Lotaeri? No, thank you. That's all I wanted to know. I don't think we can talk with Ohm about anything, but let's make an attempt to do so. Message. Answer. Oh, we'll talk later. See you, Ohm. Lanashar. Did you call for me? Yes. I have several questions. What would you like to know? Tell me about yourself, Lanashar. We just had a battle. I'd like to know more about my opponents before I cast them into chaos. I used to be a mortal. I studied necromancy. I came to know life and death and learned from my own experience that all evil in Eador comes from living beings. Death is the highest form of existence. My task is to make Eador a kingdom of death, delivering it from life once and for all. I see. I mean, I can understand that point of view. I really can. Living beings are the things that do evil, right? And demons, I suppose, are living beings too. But good comes from living beings, also in Eador, Lanashar, and the dead don't do good deeds. Right? If they don't do evil, then they don't do good either. They're dead. Although he is a dead creature, believing himself to be doing good, but actually doing bad, right? Or am I wrong? And he actually is, and he is the good guy, and I'm the bad guy. I see. Oh, and then he hangs up on us. Stanria. Ah, it's you, Lotaeri. What have you come for? I have a few questions. What would you like to know? What can you tell me about Beleth? An impudent boy. Such a sweet tooth. He'd sell his mom for a piece of cake, but he can pretend to be a real deer when he needs to. Wasn't it you who predicted that he would become Overlord of Eador? Beleth, I think, did say this to us, didn't he? Let me keep that a secret. I never share fate's revelations with those not directly concerned. You wouldn't like me to reveal your fate to anyone who asks, would you? What difference does it make? I don't believe in prophecies anyway. Then why are you asking if you don't believe? Beleth is obsessed with the idea of being destined to become the Overlord of Eador. And I have a strong suspicion that it was you who gave him that idea. You're entitled to your opinion. I have no intention of confirming or disproving it. Besides, guesswork is good for your mind and imagination. Alright, never mind. Have I satisfied your curiosity? Not quite. One more question for you, Stanria. What would you like to know? Wow, there's a lot we can ask her about. What do you know about the keys of truth, Stanria? I think the key we have mentioned Stanria's name in it. What keys of truth? I've never heard of them before. Then why did so if we say this, she's going to know we have one of the keys. Let's not play that hand. Too bad. I thought you of all beings would know about such things. Darn it! Wrong answer. Can we actually ask her about the keys again? Or did I mess that up forever? Okay, no, we can't ask her about the keys again in the future. Okay, so we can review we had the 7th key later. Let's actually talk to her about one other thing. What do you know about Eador? Eador. Another victim of love for forbidden knowledge. The boy tried too hard to get into the astral and paid a heavy price for it. He was nearly devoured by chaos. Now he's become a lot more cautious, and he even remembers the laws of karma. He is smart enough to learn from his own mistakes, but not perceptive enough to stop making them. I see. So, have I satisfied your curiosity? Yes, most likely. And Darrenal. Greetings, Lotaeri. What has brought you here? Some questions. What would you like to know? What was that last battle you talked about? Don't you know? It's a shame that the ancient knowledge has always been forgotten. The last battle will be a battle between the forces of order and chaos. The spawn of chaos. Oh, I thought we were asking him about the last battle he witnessed for the elf creation god, not the last battle against chaos. But I guess we'll read this anyway. Obviously, the last battle will be a battle between the forces of order and chaos. The spawn of chaos will escape from the underworld to destroy the world, and the masters will stand up against them to prevent it. This battle will take place in the last days, and the fate of Eador will be decided there. You can trust me. I'll be there among the defenders of Eador. I'm glad to hear it, Lotaeri. Be ready for battle when the last days come. When will they come? You will be given a sign. Until then, prepare yourself. I take it that means we're going to get a pop-up that tells me, like, it's happening in, like, 4 turns. Something like that. All right. Thank you. Oh, okay, and he hangs up as well. What? Talk to him one more time? Oh, I'm sorry, Lotaeri. It was an accidental hang-up. What else brought you here? One more question for you, Darrenal. What would you like to know? What do you know about Beleth? A power-hungry necromancer. Powie? A power-hungry necromancer who uses his dark power to gain control over mortals. Beleth is one of those who will betray us, flipping over to the side of chaos if he considers it beneficial for himself. I agree. Do you have some other questions for me? One more, actually, Darrenal, as long as I'm pushing. What would you like to know? How about Vianata? The Fairy Queen is our loyal ally. The elves have long been friends with her people. The only thing that saddens me is that Vianata, just like all fairies, is too light-minded, prone to act on the spur of the moment, which often harms herself and her people. I see. Do you have any other questions for me? No, that's all I wanted to ask. Thank you, Darrenal. Alright, let me save this part off really quick, and I'll be back to look at the shards with you guys. Oh. Shard examination, take 15. Okay. So everyone, I want your opinion on which shard I should attack. And so I will attack the shard that gets the most votes in the comments section down below. Let me know which shard you think I should attack, and that will be the one we go for. If I get a tie, or rather, if there is a tie amongst the shards we go for, or if I don't get any votes, or people tell me, everyone says, Tim, attack whatever shard you want, then, and only then, will I cast a vote myself to break the tie, or decide, obviously, which shard we attack. I've been torn on giving you my opinion on the shards that we go for, because I didn't originally want to influence your opinion on the shard. I think all these shards are acceptable targets for one reason or another. So I think what I'll do is I will just rattle off what we see as rewards and hover over them briefly in the case of the buildings, so you guys can pause this and read the descriptions in case you care. And I will summarize what I think of each of the different individual rewards very briefly. So let's go ahead and try this. Again. So we have Arire, a large forested shard. We would gain 27 energy income, a respectable amount for a large shard. We gain the Chapel of Immortals, a Tier 3 spell school, the Tower of Necromancy, an artifact market, and the School of High Magic, another Tier 3 spell school. The buildings are very nice, I think. The Chapel of Immortals, I would really only benefit, I think, from the resurrection and ritual reduction. In particular, just probably the ritual reduction. Because if we're relying on our defenders' morale for a victory, this, I believe, only applies to the garrison units in our domain. So that's that's a very singular bonus we gain. And one that we never want to see, because we never want to see our main capital under siege. That's all, and assaulted, which is the only reason we would gain that bonus. That would be awful. The Tower of Necromancy is nice. Again, Tier 3 spell school. Same thing with the School of High Magic. And the Artifact Magic sounds promising. We get to hire a Gargoyle Guard if we have it. But I don't know what magic items are for sale here, so I can't tell you if this is worth acquiring or not. We would find out, obviously, if we unlock it. For the units, we gain access. So basically, the buildings are nice. I like these. For our other rewards, we gain access to a Plague Shooter, 69 more gold reserve, and a Silver Axe. I don't really think I need a second Plague Shooter, but it could be useful for the Fevers early on. $69 is nice. Eventually, we're going to have enough money that I begin taking quite a bit of gold reserve with me to attack shards. I'll probably never bring, though, the Silver Axe. So that is Arire summed up. We have Dosen, an average Hills shard with 15 Astral Energy income. It's on the low side at this point in the Astral turn order. We're on turn 24. I think we are now 1/3 of the way towards the end of the game. I think on competent difficulty, our game ends at turn 75. I think. It might be a little more, it might be a little less. I can't really remember. But in any case, we want more. Generally, we would like more Astral Energy, but, well, won't say no to 15 energy income if this is when we attack. We gain access to the Trappers Guild. This is, I believe, one of the buildings we will need if we want to eventually get Lycans in our army, the werewolves. We can gain... Oh, that's all I should say. We gain the Journeyman Jeweler, the last of the Tier 2 shops that I have yet to unlock. We gain access to the Torture Chamber, which produces Executioners as a Tier 3 unit. For the other rewards on this... So, for the buildings, this is nice because we could eventually put those Lycans to good use. Of course, we could also hire Medusas and Wyverns, probably neutral units, I believe is what they are, and those will get along with my army. The Journeyman Jeweler would be nice. I think the Copper Bracelet is +2 stamina. The Malachite Amulet is +1 resistance. I don't know what the other rings do. Executioners, probably not too useful for me because they are indeed an evil unit, but they're a strong evil unit and a great tank if you're going the route of evil. Basically, if I do decide to play evilly on a shard, this would be a nice unit to have. But that's probably not going to happen very often. Still, another unit available to us. And of course, this might lead into other buildings if we did build a torture chamber. Quite often, the tier 3 units, or tier 2 units, for example, let you build other things in addition to that unit, getting you access to special guards or what have you. We get access to a pack warrior, which is garbage. I would just vendor that immediately upon coming back to the Astral. And we would gain 8 extra gold income as a potential purchase when we attack a shard. I do really like income when it comes to attacking shards. And from now on, for example, you're going to see me purchase extra gem income for every shard I go to. And eventually we'll start doing that with the gold income too. So overall, an okay amount of energy income. The buildings are situational. They're not bad. They're not bad. I wouldn't say no to getting these unlocked, but they're not like, oh my god, we have to attack this shard immediately, obviously. And the gold income is nice. The pack warrior is useless. so there's Dosen. Gotteridge, an average plains shard with, again, 15 energy income. Would have preferred more. We don't get it. Master Enchanter, Master Mailmaker, Master Weaponsmith are the buildings we unlock. Tier 3 shops. I think the stuff you get from these are all pretty decent, and this actually has a cutlass available for purchase in it. That's odd. A melee weapon. I think that's +4 attack, +2 counter attack, if I recall correctly. I don't really know what these weapons are like. I think the Battle Poleaxe is what we just had on the last shard with Jared, that +6 to attack, +2 counter attack weapon. But I don't know what the others are capable of. But overall, I do like these buildings. I'm a big fan of the domain shops to make up for us not finding good weapons. And of course, probably if we don't find a shop selling them on a shard, it would be nice to be guaranteed to get a decent weapon. It is tier 3. This is quite expensive to work towards, but it's more power for your heroes, and that's always useful. Or more defense, in the case of the Mailmaker. We would gain 86 more gold reserve, and a pack warrior as other rewards. This is not very tempting as rewards here. Again, the pack warrior, I just vendor this. 56 gold reserve, I'm not going to say no, but no, I'd rather have gem income. We have Beliar, an average hill shard. Again, with the 15 Astral energy income. I guess average shards are now 15 energy income. You know my thoughts on 15 energy income based on the Astral turn at this point. We gain access to the Crystal of Might. This is the final upgrade for the magic crystals. And it lets us receive hard quests. The Master Plate Maker. I tend not to make the plate mail armor, if only because I'm a big fan of speed for my warriors, or heroes, actually all heroes. I generally like having 2 speed, not 1 speed, and the armor will lower my speed by 1 if it's plate armor. But maybe I should get used to using plate armor. And we gain access to the Pegasi stable. I believe this is the last of the tier 2 units we have yet to unlock. Pegasi are very fast for speed, and I think they can unlock 5 speed. They have, I think, okay, like 3 or 4 melee defense, but I don't think they have any range defense, which is a really interesting defensive stat line for a fast flying unit. And I know this will give us access to, I think, the Pegasi guard to guard provinces, which is, I think, like 8 Pegasi defending it, which, while not extremely powerful, is definitely enough to kill a few of the enemy's units on the front line. We gain access to another ferry in our garrison, and we gain access to a raider's jacket. This is actually a decent item to start with for a scout, for example. So for Belair, again, okay Astral energy income, decent buildings, nothing again that's amazing, but not bad, and good rewards here. Marcon, a large forested shard with 38 energy income. That's nice. Siege Works is a building we unlock. Tier 3 catapults. A Tier 3 spell slot. Spell school. The Blooming Lane. A treasury. I've been staring at this for a bit, and I'm curious as to how it increases storage capacity. Reduces gold losses when under plunder by 30% is what this says as well, but I never plunder. And I don't understand, like, if an enemy can plunder, how that works on our own shards. Maybe this means that, like, if we come under attack through special events, the amount of gold we lose is reduced. Because I don't understand how we would reduce the gold by plunder. And another Tier 3 spell slot, the Tower of Restoration. We'd also gain access to a Guard's Halberd in our treasury. I wish I could remember what this does. I think this is First Strike? And I think it's... before I say anything, is this... Can I make this? I cannot. So, I think it's First Strike, 4 attack and 6 counterattack. It might have Vigilance too, but I can't remember. But it's a nice weapon, if I recall correctly. If I was not going to use a shield, because I think this is also a two-handed weapon. So overall for Markan, good Astral Energy income, good buildings to have, a good weapon to possess. But situational, because I'd have to decide that I'm not bringing the Dwarven Shield with me. And I think the last shard is Verdal, a big hill shard. Let's stop for a second to talk about big. We have not yet had a battle on a big shard. This will be the largest shard size we are stepping onto yet. I think the order is tiny, small, average, large, big, very big, huge. I think those are the sizes. We can probably expect 5 or 6 Astro Masters total, including us, I think, on this shard. We gain access to the Knightly Order, which unlocks champions, if I recall correctly. We've seen champions. Good armor, charge attack, and they move forward into the spot of the unit they killed. They trample over it if they do manage to kill a unit. A Tier 3 spell slot, the Tower of Chaos. The Castle. And an Oracle. Tower of Chaos probably is not one I would use very often, if only because it's Chaos, and I'm trying not to cast Chaos spells. I might use Chaos Distortion, but I don't know actually what that does. I don't even know what Demon Blood does either, but it's probably something that heals demons. Summon Demon, that's a Tier 3 unit. We know what that is. We can perform the ritual Rain of Brimstone, which I think damages everything in a province. That would be very useful to have. The castle is required if we want Tier 4 units. At some point, if not on this shard, then in a future one, we will need to aim to acquire this. An Oracle. I've never had an Oracle before. It sounds useful because it reduces the chance of getting bad events and increases the chance of getting good events. Very expensive, though, to build this. It looks like it's not... I mean, it looks expensive as well. It's 1,500, 150 gem. 1,500 gold, 150 gems. But this requires 3 Dianite and 2 Arcanite. This is going to be very expensive to purchase. Unless we have those resources. For the rewards, we get access to a Scholar. Nice. A contract with Lizard Guards. Situational, since you can only put them into swamps, but useful. And 75 more gold reserve. So okay rewards down here. Decent. I'm not going to say no to these. It's not like we get like 2 pack warriors and like a dagger, a stiletto or something that I'm never going to use. So Verdal, not good energy income for a big shard. The buildings are nice, and we will eventually want the castle. And the other rewards are decent. And those are our shards, everyone. Once again, let me know what you think we should attack, and we'll attack it. And now, I will read the comments on the last 2 videos. Hey guys. Alright. let's go ahead and start reading some of the comments I got on part 189. And part 190 is going up today too. Surprise! I didn't think you guys would mind. Today is February 3rd, 2022. This part's going to go up on the 5th is the intention. And I'll wait probably 2 or 3 days until I can see what votes I get to upload the next one. So I know what chart I'm attacking, assuming that you guys did indeed vote on this video. So let's get started with the comments. The Knight That Say Nay. Hey, Knight That Say Nay. I haven't seen you comment very often on this series. Good to see you again. Says, wow, what a smooth start. If it weren't for that damn golem fella. Wasn't for the halflings waiting for me to use a detect magic item spell. Would have been fun to see the Drow Alliance, but I think that you're right in not experimenting when the life of your Astro Master's on the line. Heck, I bet they don't even want a good aligned Astro Master as an alliance. Hope your vertical gets better. It's never fun having to deal with that. I really did want the Drow Alliance too, especially after being told that it's possible for a good aligned Astro Master to get it. But I think it was a Dorkable, or I think it was a Dorkable, who mentioned, was Dorkable Bruno, mentioned that they will only join you if you can only get the quest from them if you're good aligned, if you have a diplomacy of 4. So that would mean getting an item to give you +1 diplomacy, or leveling my scout to level 10 and choosing archery, and then getting diplomacy plus another point in diplomacy to do it. And that's too long to wait when I wanted them really early on, so it just wasn't going to happen. And yeah, so I stuck with what I know as well for that shard. As you can see, we're over here now in the Astral, and we won, because I know I play the game with a certain play style, and it seems to work for me, despite the horrible mistakes I make. So I stuck with what I knew. As for my Vertigo, it's a little better today. I've had maybe 4 attacks, not like 40, so that's good. I also still feel sick occasionally, so I'm hoping it's nothing serious and that an illness isn't masking something terrible lurking in my head. But I am feeling a little better today, so hopefully it's on its way out. And I didn't respond back to you, so I will do that right after I'm done eating dinner. Dennis Mayak says, you're making good progress, fighting almost every turn this time. Defending shards should be easier this time. I think those returns when you tried to ally with the halflings were needed, as little turns should be wasted as possible. Yep, completely agreed. It's complete panic mode when I'm defending my shard, because even a single mistake when it comes to turns could cost me. And we had several, actually, right? I attempted to get the Prince lands, thinking they would just join me because I'm good aligned, and it's my freaking shard. And they were having none of it. It's probably because the strength of our army wasn't strong enough. And even when we sent over Dinrig, his diplomacy of 3 still wasn't good enough because it was a very strong, I think probably guard defending that province. We had to come up with the $600, not 300, just to wait one more turn. But those were wasted turns. I could have done other things instead for those turns, came up with the money, and then sent Dinrig over, and not have wasted all those turns sending over Jared to do it. Ugh. But the good news that now is I'm aware of the options for dealing with Prince's lands. And we won the shard anyway. About making werewolf quest happen only once. Okay, I'm going to skip this only because Dennis goes into details about manipulating numbers and so on, and I don't think most people find it interesting. I found it fascinating because it also lets me say the Lycan event can happen only once on a shard and then never again. So I will do that if we get like the event still 3 or 4 times on the shard, and it's like before turn 100, 110, because that's way too often for that event. It just ruins the uniqueness of it. So if that happens in the future, I will then go and adjust the event file again and reduce the maximum number of times it happens to just once. Dennis comments on Dennis comments on the part that I was talking about in regard to watching people play Let's Plays. And he says, I generally like to watch how people play games, which I played myself. It both kicks nostalgia and interest of comparing different approaches, tactics. But yes, I like to see perfectionist gameplay. Yep. I figured you did, Dennis, because watching your one solo warrior video, you pointed out that how much you enjoy trying to eke out every single point of experience when you play. Like, you want to see what's possible when you're doing it, which is why you reload often during it. And I thought it was fascinating to watch what's possible with a solo warrior. Getting to level 10 at turn 10? That amazing. I never would have even thought it possible had I not seen you do it. That was just incredible. And I myself, I like watching people play like Dark Souls, a game perfectly, or another really hard game, like I don't know, what's another one? Fury. Watching someone play Fury perfectly is a lot of fun to watch. I also, however, like watching people make lots of mistakes and then get better as they learn from those mistakes. That's what most of my videos are like when I'm playing a game blind. Otherwise, I do try to make most of my games perfectionist. Although, I also like keeping my failures on screen, if I can. I think it makes it much more suspenseful. If I am making mistakes and I am losing battles or losing units in a turn-based game, or I am dying in like an FPS, I think it brings up the suspense, because you don't know if I'm going to live or die in a video, rather than watch someone live all the time and edit out all their mistakes. Dennis also says, unfortunately, it's extremely hard to find perfectionist playthroughs of my favorite games, 4-time strategies and colony management games, since it requires a lot of micromanagement, which is boring for most people. But I would totally watch someone spend an hour of real-life time for 10 minutes of in-game time, like I do. Yeah, I like that stuff too. I know that some people like watching that from me, which is why I often will... Oh, I'm actually moving this stuff around occasionally. Which is why I will often leave it in, and sometimes put like either a link in the comments section that people skip it, or I'll segment the video now that I know how to do that. So if someone doesn't want to watch me prepare for something for an hour, they can skip ahead to where the battle actually begins, for example. I sometimes begin talking about one strategy or why I'm deploying someplace in Eador, but then I get distracted or my mind is not focused on it correctly, and then I begin talking about something else entirely different. I find it very frustrating that I call myself scatterbrained, because I jump from important point to important point without any seeming connection between these things. And I don't know why I do it, I just know I do it. I'm absent-minded too, so I often forget what I was trying to talk about earlier. I do apologize for everyone who has to put up with me trying to explain the tactics that are going through my head, but it's also why I make a video like the Eador Tips and Tactics video I made, because that will have a lot of cuts in it. And I'll make sure to read from a script to make sure everything I'm saying makes sense, is coherent, and relates to the things I'm showing on screen at the time. Otherwise, though, like I want to touch it right here, yes, I do like watching that as well, especially because it's nice to see the payoff of all that thought that went into doing a battle. Let's see, who was next? Vipera Burris says, well, I'm finally caught up. This is a good start. I'm looking forward to how this develops. Though you did make some odd choices in this episode. I think going for the quests from the temples would have been absolutely worth it, even if it had slowed you down a bit. Oh yeah, so I didn't even recognize I had a Temple of Light sitting there. But I was very eager to start getting levels instantly. Normally I'll grab starting quests because I don't like my starting hero sitting around, and it usually takes me like 2 or 3 turns to build the buildings to support him. Getting units, buying initial equipment, and possibly getting the crystal quest first before I begin killing things like brigands, because I know brigands are a common quest given for the crystal. So if I see starting places I can grab quests for, I will go and grab them. This is also because sometimes if you explore it in a province, you can be ambushed, or you can have a fight versus wolves. And if you have a single level 0 hero, man, that's a shame that you got that quest, because it's going to kill your hero, and now you have a revert. And you want to do those quests, because like the brigand ambush gives you like 300 gold and a good magic item, at least one of them, if you win it. So you never want to pass on that ambush. And it's not hard, but you can't do it with a solo level 0 hero. In any case, yes, so Normally, I would have gone for the Temple of Light quest, for example. A few of them. But I didn't feel like I had the time. I felt like I had to rush Lanashar as fast as possible. Also, I'm not sure if you should not build something in your capital if you don't have things like library and have money for it as well. Wouldn't that be a mistake as well? Well, normally, yes, if I was starting on any other shard. But this is my home shard, and I started with 2 heroes. I also saw that we had a weapon store, which meant possibly a better weapon and shield, and we had just unlocked iron, which means that their prices might be a little lower. So I wanted around 1,000 gold to make a purchase there, and I recognized that I had everything I needed to possibly get in and get some stronger gear, and I think that's what let our hero win in the end without too much concern about the enemy. I think we would have won that battle anyway with the gear he started with, but it was nice to have that stuff anyway. Normally, though, yes, it's a mistake. Normally, I build things in a very particular order. I try to get some decent spells with my heroes, but in addition, I didn't want to build a library if none of my heroes were going to go and pick up the spells, and they weren't. I was going to keep using them to keep doing battles. It's weird for me, because normally, even with Jared, I would send him back to the capital to grab level 0 spells, and then pull him out to do another battle. But and he had extra command slots not filled. But I didn't want to move him. I'm like, no, we can do these battles with just the units he's got. He needs to do these battles. We need to level as quick as possible, because I really wanted to hit Lanashar. Especially afterwards when I saw that we could attack him early. Or potentially do so. I hope this doesn't come off as too negative. Oh, no, nonsense, Vipera Barris. And for anyone as well. No, I never assume if you have questions or like, why did you do that? Always feel free to ask. I will never assume you are being too negative or insulting at all. Unless you start cursing and swearing at me or calling me horrible names, in which case I probably would have stopped responding to the comment. But no, I never mind questions, and I'll try my best to explain what's going through my head at the time as to why I'm making those choices. Hopefully I did an acceptable job here too. I still think you're in a very good position. I'm just not sure why you did that. Well, so hopefully I explained why I did it. And as you saw, I did eventually make the library, and what I think it was the School of Light, or the Temple of Light, because I wanted better spells, but I was waiting until I was at the capital anyway to repair gear, or in the case of Jared, to pick up the gear that I just purchased with Dinrig. So I might as well go back and get it. It's better gear. My gear's slightly damaged. We have more command slots. I'm going to build a tier 0. I'm going to build a library. I might as well pick up spells. It's a lot of beneficial things. Let's go and do it. And I think that also helped me beat the slugs. Those fatigue spells worked really well for us. So I'm glad I did it that way. I'm curious how this plays out. Do you plan on going for tier 3 units on this shard? Well, as you saw, we didn't even need them. My plan was to rush the enemy as quick as possible, especially when I saw that we could jump around peninsulas. That's what they're called. Peninsulas. When I saw we could jump from peninsula to peninsula, and that we could do it without fighting at those locations, potentially, I realized that we could get right next to Lanashar's fortress at like turn 30. And I think we basically did it around turn 28 or so, and we won around turn 34, I think is what happened. I have time for maybe one more comment before I have to go get dinner. Let's see. Alexander says, hey, Tim, I finally caught up with your playthrough. In fact, now I'm a bit ahead of you, since beating Lanashar was quite easy for me. Nice, sir. As you can see, it was easy for me, too. Although, it was only easy for me because of the heroes that I had. The guards around the provinces would have been rather tricky for me to defeat. To actually eventually reach him and defeat him through through a later game combat with units. I couldn't siege him right away because his castle was guarded by minotaurs. Oh, yeah, yep. We had that on the last shard, right? With Ohm. It's a good idea to finish him off as soon as possible because AI still gets a boost to its hero's XP. It's far better than the overlevel bug, but it can be annoying to see something like a level 20 commander knocking at your door by turn 60 or 70. Yeah, that's tough for the AI to do. Now, to be kind of fair to the AI, Lanashar plays on an easier difficulty level than you play on. He is playing on skilled. So he gets more loot, all the creatures he's killing have less hit points for him, and he gets more experience for his units. So it wouldn't surprise me if he reaches level 20 by like turn 70 or 75 or so. Even level 60 is possible with that, if he gets good loot from the combats. So you can tweak your VAR files to lock the AI into a certain difficulty if you don't want them to do that. I have not done that here because I want to see what the game is like with the default difficulties enabled. But it's something that we could do if it becomes very frustrating for me too going forward, but we'll probably just lose the campaign if that's the case, and it was still a lot of fun, assuming, of course, we don't get the hyper-level bug again. Yeah, hyper-level bug is something where I'm saying that the computer, from what we saw in the past, the computer gains 1 level every turn for the first, 30 turns. And it's terrible. And if it hires another hero, that hero gets the same thing. 1 level every single turn. It's very frustrating to have to deal with a level 30 hero on turn 30. It throws the entire balance of the shard out of whack, and I'll rant about it for hours, so let's move on. Alexander says, yeah, diplomacy dialogues are chance-based, and it sucks. One time I tried to capture an elf force with diplomacy. It took me 5 turns and 3 reversions of telling them ancient elven poems to finally get that province. At least diplomacy gives a discount at shops, and it makes a huge difference if you encounter a traveling merchant. Oh, okay, yep. And that's another reason why I used Dinrig at that shop, because I knew the prices would be cheaper if I sent them in there. 30%, which let us afford both that mace and the shield. Otherwise, we couldn't afford both of them. It also let us, earlier on, as you saw in the other shard, purchase provinces to allow me to avoid some combats and get some more income. Really useful. Oh, I can feel your problem with Lycans. I have the same thing with Inquisition, where they come to purge heretics. Yeah, I've seen this before too. Where they come to purge heretics every 5 turns, sometimes even to 2 or 3 provinces a turn. That's really tiresome for my guards to pop their buys and burn them down every week. Good luck. Rush that crazy necromancer down. P.S. Totally forgot to ask a few things. Can you name a dwarf after me, pretty please? Absolutely. Absolutely. I will begin writing down people who want a unit named after them. And in the future, I will always do so. So the next time we get a dwarf, Alexander, I will go ahead and name it after you. So Alexander wants to be a dwarf. I think, Alexander, what you mean by dwarf is a dwarf. The guy with the axe and shield, the tier 1 unit, as opposed to something like a runesmith. Or if it's any dwarf whatsoever, that's good to know too. Number 2, how much time do you think passes in a turn? A day, a week, or maybe a month? Or are we simply perceiving everything from an astral perspective, where time flows at a much slower rate? What are your thoughts on this matter? So from Czar has explained this to us, where we could have hours pass in the astral, but on the shards, just like a fragment of a second elapses is what's going on there. So time doesn't flow the same out here as it does on the shards. And I think I have to go. I can smell my dinner's done, but I think I can fit in these comments. It's okay if the chicken's a little... Actually, it's not okay. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Is the chicken actually done? It's done. It's done. Okay. It is done. But I had to put more food in the oven, so I got 6 minutes. Let's see if I can get through Adorkable's comment. Adorkable says, this episode contains yet more reasons to dislike halflings. Not only do they rebel constantly, but even with high diplomacy, they make you roll around in the mud with them while they cheat in a chance-based event. I completely agree with this. There were other options we could have chosen. I just chose the detect magic because I saw it was an option for crystals, and we had the crystals. I thought it might let us instantly win, as opposed to going through a dialogue tree. But apparently that's not the case. I've never, ever in this game had Diplomacy 3 and used it to grab the halflings earlier. I've always just conquered them if I couldn't find the brigands. But it can be really annoying when the halflings try to overthrow your guard at that province, because within 20-25 turns, they're going to do it. And it might be a weak group, or it could be the Fellowship of the Ring. Gandalf, Boromir, Aragorn, they all show up. It's really well done. It's pretty freaking hilarious if it happens. But there's no way you're beating them without, like, a tier 4 guard. Or tier 3 guard. You need something really strong there. And you gotta incapacitate Gandalf right away, or it's game over for you. Adorkable says, if I could, I'd invite the Ratmen to feast in the Halfling provinces and hope it became a Ratman province instead. Nasty little hobbits. Yeah, I didn't really want the halflings as my allies on this shard, but they were there. There were 3 of them. in really strategic locations, having resources I wanted, we might as well grab them as allies to gain those provinces for free without a big fight. I also think I jinxed myself at the end of your last video. I was having a bit of a laugh at you getting invaded, especially after that climatic final battle. And not an hour later, I won a shard, only to have Dogor invade me in my campaign. Yep. Dogor was the first one to do so. And after Dogor invades you, is when you will be able to invade the enemies, assuming you're able to win that fight. Good luck, Adorkable. Master must be pretty inept at choosing the city locations, though, because on my own shard I was trapped on a peninsula with no resources, and a tier 2 deadly swamps is the only way off, while the invader had 2 iron mithril redwood in his first. Oh, this sucks. His first ring and horses and mandrake in his second. Sometimes I hate this game. So you could always do what I occasionally do, and that's back up your game files. Especially for something like Dogor. Like, I didn't do it this time. I had no clue Lenashar was actually going to... Well, actually, I knew Lenashar invaded us, but I thought it was a little later. Because Mr. Vadim Theborn, his campaign ended, his original campaign, because he got invaded by Lenashar and lost. That sucked. Man, he put up a good fight, but in the end, there was nothing he could do. I thought it was like, after like 4 turns or so in the Astral, he would invade you, but nope, maybe he's been around for a while and then he actually did it. I just lost count of when we ran into him. But yeah, I get the impression other Astral Masters will also eventually invade you. And the Astral Masters that do invade you might invade you again. I've heard that Dogor will invade you multiple times, for example, so be aware. And I think every time you're invaded, an Astral turn passes, so keep that in mind as well. Yeah, and I hate when the game puts me on an awful shard and I have to somehow manage to win it. That's, with Dogor also, that sucks, because you're early on in this campaign. That's like Astral turn 12 or 14 or so when that happens, I think. And God, you just don't have a lot to defend yourself with at that point. Remember what happened to me? That mass suicide spell that all of Dogor's freaking heroes had? God! It's so awful. I hated that. I just wanted it to be over. God. Terrible. Alright. I'll be back to read your comment, Bruno, and then any others I get. Give me a few seconds. Alright, guys. I've got some more comments. Let's go ahead and pound through these. So, Bruno, I didn't get to your comment, I think, when I was recording this yesterday, so let's get it done today. Bruno says, on part 189, I would have conquered the first ring halflings and taken the quest from the second ring ones, but you were doing very well anyways. Oh yeah, that's true. That would have given us access to any brigands, for example, that might be located at the first halfling ring, so that you would be able to maybe complete their quest easier. I didn't think there were very many locations in that province when I checked originally. I think there was like 2 or 3, so I wasn't relying on them. But that can be a smart thing to do too. Conquer all the first level, first ring provinces, in this case, to get the early income, and then get the halfling quest, complete the halfling quest, and then when the halflings overthrow you, you can just walk in there again to have them rejoin you again. I didn't even think about doing it that way. That's a good point, Bruno. I just immediately decided to have them join us. It never occurred to me to try for the second province instead of the first. Should have done that. That would have probably saved me a little bit of time, too. Bruno also says, Old Man Tim cannot stop his soda addiction. Yes, I have lots of problems with my soda addiction. I'm totally not addicted. I can stop whatever I want. I just choose not to. Because I love the taste of it. It's that little bit of caffeine I really like in the Coke Zeros. And the Coke Zero Cherry is one of the few sodas I actually like the taste of. I don't actually like most sodas any longer. Or like root beer or cream soda. I don't like them. It's just Cherry Coke Zero. And even then, once it gets warm, I can taste all the chemicals in it, and it's disgusting. So I've been trying to kick my habit with other sodas and remind myself how awful they are. And it's just not working very well. I'm going to have, apparently, 1 20-ounce bottle a day until I run completely out. And even then, I'll probably go out to the store and still grab some more. This is just silly. From your comments, it seems you're taking medical attention, but all those vertical attacks and anxiety might be caused by something inside the head, besides creating D&D campaigns. You had some blood pressure issues, I think, right? Take care, Gramps. Yes, I have had blood pressure issues in the past, but I don't have high blood pressure, not normally. My blood pressure normally is about, like 115, maybe like 106 over 60, or maybe like 68. And it's not bad, but if my anxiety spikes, because I do have anxiety, my blood pressure rises as well, and it skyrockets. It's very dangerous. I've had my blood pressure go up to like 200 over like 105, and that's like, I gotta get to the hospital. That's stroke territory, and that's caused by anxiety. It's awful when that happens, and that's why I'm on blood pressure meds, because I don't want to be on anxiety meds. So the easiest solution for me is to deal with the blood pressure increases, and this has all sorts of other issues. I won't go into my medical history and how I'm dealing with all my problems. I have too many of them. But yeah, the vertigo attacks are annoying. I had these for, I think it was like 2.5 months, 3 years ago. Then they went away, and then they came back for about another month, and then they went again. They went away, and I haven't had them until last week. Exactly the same as what happened to me in the past as well. Very, very weird. And then Bruno finishes with that moment when the synapses activate. Right, when I realized I thought that we could only reach the other side of Lanashar by jumping to the island and then jumping down to the swamp originally as well. And then I noticed, no, we can use the peninsulas to circumvent everything on the major portion of my shard to reach him. Because those swamp provinces would be a nightmare to try to take them. They're really strong. Even that island might have had a behemoth in it. If that was a tier 4 province, and I think it was. Is that right? Tier 4? Tier 3. It was tier 3. Be a really tough battle against the barbarians to take that island. So when I realized that we were going to grab the alliance with the halflings, well, that lets that halfling peninsula join us immediately without me having to do anything. And then we could get the Princess Lands to join, although that didn't quite work out the way I thought it would work out. Still worked out for us in the end. Alright, let me go to the new video. That would be the new video, 190. Let me make sure I don't hear myself talk. Alright, now let's start reading these ones. So, Urlupsi says, well done, Tim. Excellent defense, and good on you caring about your units. Empathy is usually not misplaced. Yeah, I like keeping my units alive. That was so awkward when I lost the elf. It's such an amateur move for me not to check what the heroes are capable of. I really need to spend 10 minutes looking at the hero, everything he's got for his skills, so I can not lose elves. If we had still won that battle, for example, well, let's say that was a battle that I did not at the enemy fortress, I would have lost almost all my metal units and a really powerful elf. All because I didn't check the hero. That's so dumb. That's so dumb. I'm going to be kicking myself for that for the next video or two. But thank you, sir. I am glad that we managed to kick Lanashar out of our shard. V2 Heiskanen says, nice job on the shard. Good to see that early game wars are actually viable in this game. I thought that was pretty much mandatory to wait until late game before challenging the other masters. I think V2 would help with that train of thought, like, makes you think that way, because I think the same way too, is how difficult it is to get through the provinces to reach the enemy masters, normally. Even tier 2 provinces, as we do later shards, will have very strong guards in them, as we saw on our shard. That tier 2 province with the magical forest had, what was it, like 9 enemies? And probably 2 of those were dire bears. We're not beating dire bears early at all. That's going to take some amount of effort to do. Like, that's tough. That's a really tough fight. We can't take that at level 5. We're not taking that at level 8 either, unless we get super lucky with amazing gear and fantastic units or mercenaries. That would be very, very difficult. And like 5 or 6 fighters? No way. No way we can do that. Probably not even with a level 10 warrior. We'd just get webbed and my army would get slaughtered. So it's really tricky. It's really tricky. And so anyway, because of the difficulty of taking provinces, you can't really make your way to the enemy until about turn 60 or so, when you're finally around level 13, maybe 15, and that's when you're soldiering, that's when you can begin taking some of these provinces, and hopefully you have good gear to help you with that. But in this case, we saw an opportunity and we took it, and it worked for us. So yep, that was pretty cool to see that we could indeed win very early on. Adorkable says, congratulations on the well-played victory. You saw an opportunity and you took it. Also, early in the video, when you were looking at the weapons shop, one of the reasons that the Fencer's Blade and the Consword cost so much more than the Mace is that they are melee weapons, while the Mace is a heavy melee weapon. Anyone but a mage could use the first two, so in balance terms, they are more useful in more situations, thus a price increase. Oh, that's a good way to look at it. Well, I'd never even make that connection. I always look at what the weapon's capable of, like what its damage is and any special abilities it possesses, and assume it's been priced on that, not necessarily on accessibility. So that is a great point and something to think about going forward. That might also be the reason why Alexander, why that Bardiche is worth so much more than that one sword was, I think, because you mentioned you can understand why the astral cost was so high for the Bardiche compared to like the sword of like a great sword or something, which was the stats were much better. It's because it's a heavy weapon, so only a warrior can use it. Also, speaking of Alexander, before I forget, Alexander was the one who told me that it requires Diplomacy 4 to talk with the Dark Elves when I went back and checked the comments. So thank you for that, Alexander. That basically ruled out the Dark Elves as an ally on that last shard. Vipera Barris says, well done. That was a really cool shard. I do have a question for future shards. Will you show off the commander in the future? Personally, I almost never take that hero since I don't know how to play him. Yes. So I will do so. It's going to be tricky for me to want to pick him first, if only because I have a bunch of gear that is suitable for other heroes when we attack a shard. In fact, I already have an idea for certain builds I can use. Like the warrior will almost always get the dwarven shield. A scout, I'll be bringing the longbow from now on. And a wizard, if I don't give him the Hat of Illusion, he's getting a bit of gem income and what have you. But we don't really have anything for commander with the exception of the flag of defense. This is really expensive. Because I'm lowering the cost of my units, buildings, contracts, and items by 1/3, this will cost me about 381 astral energy if I want to bring this with me to a shard. We're making 318, so it's a loss for the amount that we have accumulated so far. So I don't really want to take it. And that means I'm not going to be tempted to take a commander. And especially if I bring other equipment with me, I will be more likely to take the hero that I'm bringing the gear for. But I do like a commander start. If I decide not to bring gear with me, or maybe it's a forested shard, and I'm like, well, this probably is better for a commander, all things told, we could probably show him off. I have played commanders first, I think, once or twice on a shard for the previous playlists. The reason why I tend not to take the commander, by the way, is because I view him as probably, honestly, at least at the start, probably even later, I feel one of the stronger heroes to start with, if not the strongest. It's difficult to deal with a commander, as his army is very powerful. And he himself can be no pushover by the time you're able to reach him. So, and I like using units that I normally feel are a little weaker than the others, just to prove to myself that I can win the shard with a lesser hero, as it were. But we'll definitely use one in as first hero, if not second. Alexander says, "Hey Tim, good job. Turns out speedrunning is a viable strategy. I guess I try to be more aggressive instead of messing around with gathering artifacts and testing out various units." Oh, I get into that spiral too, and I love it though. I don't regret spending 80 turns just clearing locations to look for treasure. It's so addicting. I really like it. It's so much fun to do those battles too. But I can't help myself. It's too fun obliterating everything with level 30 Necromancer that can summon level 20 Lords of Darkness. Oh my god, that sounds amazing. Good luck. Yep. It's great, isn't it? You summon your skeletons of... Your army marches in there with skeletons of doom and liches. You have a Draco Lich with you, and your level 30 Necromancer just annihilates everything. It's fantastic. How much fun is that? That's a lot of fun. Lost Fremen says, whoa there, Tim. He has a timestamp. You had your chance to maybe make friends with the Dark Elves. The girls there would surely have been down for some fun. Oh, maybe they would have been, but not the type of fun I think I'd be interested in. Instead, you went a different route. Now you have to be content with your third breakfast and seventh dinner. I like my noonsies in between meals. Those are delicious. This guy. Congratulations to Seth Jaspler, I think that was him, for suggesting it, and for you and to yourself for launching a perfect amphibious assault. That was great, wasn't it? That was a very fun and quick shard. I would also like to throw my hat in the ring and apply for naming of units. Yes, absolutely. Get that piece of paper. Alexander wants to be a dwarf. What would you like to be? Oh, you tell me what you would like to be. Lost Fremen, tell me what you would like to be, and I will name you after it. If you don't care... is there any unit that has blue glowing eyes in this game that we can hire? I can't think of any that would match what you are, Lost Fremen. So let me know what you want to be. If you have no preference at all, you just want a unit named after yourself, then I will probably name you after a light infantry. Assuming we get one kind, because I tend to really like light infantry. They're my favorite tier 1 unit that we can purchase in our castle. So, but I'm not going to name you after one of the first ones, because they tend to die very, very quickly. I have a hard time keeping my initial units alive until my hero gets a little stronger. Ulupsi says, awesome. Thanks for digital content. No problem, Ulupsi. Thanks for watching. I figured I'd upload this a little early. That last episode, since I haven't been doing so well in the health department. And also because I've been making lots of mistakes with what I record and what I keep and what I delete. And recently I've lost a few videos for Lotaeri Corporation or for Underrail. Or I've had to re-record parts because I lost it. I lost a part. Had to reshoot the whole video. And so that sucks when that happens. And I don't want to make that mistake over here. So we're not. Dennis Mayak says, in Vanilla, you can ally without quest with some races, but generally by threatening with a strong army or paying money. Diplomacy allows to get alliance quest easier, but it does not allow to make alliance instantly on any diplomacy level. Oh, okay. I thought it did in the original Eador Genesis. I remember just having like the lizardmen join me immediately without having to do anything for the diplomacy. Maybe it's like a chance? Or I might be misremembering. It does allow negotiation options with neutral provinces, same as do Horizons. I'm sorry, Dennis, you were talking about in Vanilla. Okay, interesting. Okay, so I'm wrong. Unfortunately, game considers loading it in autosave, as a return to the past, no matter the reason. When I was playing Hot Seat with my cousin, it won't always save on exit, and I was loading in autosave, gave me reversions. I was quite mad about that. Yeah, I've been infuriated at that as well for times. The game occasionally will crash on me. Generally, I do think it's linked to the recording software I use, but I remember at least one time when I lost power, and the game stopped, obviously. And then when the power came back on, I played the game again, only to find out that it cost me a reversion. And after that, I began backing up my saved game files a lot more often, so that this way I wouldn't be caught with a reversion if that happened. Glad to see that this time you had an even level with an enemy. Your rush has paid off great. Good job. Thank you, Dennis. I thought so too. That was kind of odd for me to do, because normally, just as Alexander was saying, I get distracted by the hunt for treasure. And I spend way too many turns clearing locations, because I find it so much fun to do that. So I'm glad this time I had my head on right and went for the victory, rather than for the loot, as it were. Astromasters never attack each other. At least I never seen that happen in-game or mentioned on the forums. Maximum that they will give you reinforcement when you attack their enemies. They generally offer it when you ask what they think about someone they hate. Oh, thank you for that, Dennis. Okay. Yeah, I was hoping that the Astro would be a little more dynamic than it's going to end up being, I suspected, which is just, we are the ones that always get invaded, and we will be the ones to conquer enemy masters, but no one else will. I guess we could think of it that they occasionally do invade each other, but we never get to watch it, and the invasion is always repulsed. And at this moment, that's all the comments that I have on my Eador videos. Alright, everyone. So, I guess I'll compress this part down, and I'll start uploading it. If I do get another comment on them before 3 o'clock today is February 4th, I can go ahead and add that to the end of this, but otherwise, this will go up, and I'll get to see what you guys think about the shards that we want to invade. So I'll see you guys then. Take care, everyone, and thanks for watching.